So good morning everyone. So today we are going to discuss topics about in Java. I think in the last class we have discussed something about inheritance, polymorphism, and abstraction, right? Say yes or no. So do you have an idea about inheritance or not? So what is inheritance? Okay, so we have taken three classes, class 3, class 2 and class 2. So class 3 extends class 2 extends class. So the meaning is, the inheritance is nothing but getting the properties from one class to another class. So in more way, so in our point of view, the inheritance is the concept of creating multiple chain of objects. Inheritance is the concept of creating multiple chain of objects. So the 3 or 4 objects are created, and after that we can access M1, M2, M3, M4 and M5 and M6 or okay. So the inheritance is the concept of creating multiple chain of object. With the help of subclass object, we can call subclass method as well as superclass methods. Okay. So in the last session, so we have discussed about inheritance as well as abstraction and polymorphism. So what is polymorphism? So one interface variable can hold any of its implementation as object. So interfaces and idea idea so interface lo only 3 things. Interface limitably 3 things. So static and final variable. Static and final variable. Static methods and abstract methods. Static methods and abstract methods. So what is the meaning of abstract method? The method without any body or implementation. Without any body or implementation is called as abstract method. So to that abstract method we have to create the class. We have to create the class. So in the class we have to provide the implementation of body to the abstract method. So we can provide any number of implementation classes. We can provide any number of classes to the single interface. So after that we have discussed something about encapsulation. Encapsulation. So encapsulation is nothing but by using setter method and by using getter method. Okay, so these are all called as properties: ID, name, average. ID, name, and average. So you can see that these ID, name, and average are private variables. ID, name, and average are private variables. So as we know that the private variables are so restricted to access only within the classes. So when you observe this ID, name, and average, so can be accessible by using only within the student. Okay, so outside the student class, we cannot access this ID, name, and average. So then, what is the exact meaning of encapsulation? Okay, so if I want to store right. So if I want to store the data into the ID, name, and average, so directly we can store within the student itself. So from outside the student, so it is not possible to store the data. So observe here. So we have three properties. So these are private. The private means we can access only within the class. Outside the class we cannot access. Then what we need to do is, we have to create a class. We have to create two methods. One is setter method and another one is getter method. So with the help of this setter and getter method, so we call, generally these are called as properties. To the properties, each and every property there are two methods. One is set method, another one is get method. So you can observe for the ID, set ID and get ID. For name, set name and get name. For average, set average and get average. Okay. So when you observe, these setter method and getter methods are public, but properties of the class are private. Okay. So we will take the public properties, we will take the public methods. With the help of the public methods, we can assign the data and we can retrieve the data. Okay. So using set method, we are going to assign the value. We are going to assign the value to the property called as SID, to the private property. And by using get ID, when it is required, we can get the property value. So meaning is, we are setting the value to the private variable and we are getting the value from the private variable. So this is exactly called as binding the data to the functionalities, unbinding the data to the unrelated functionalities. So this is where we can say binding the data to the related functionalities and unbinding the data to the unrelated functionalities is exactly called as encapsulation. So now you can observe the class name is student. The class name is what? Student here. The class name is student. And what are the methods? Set ID, get ID. Set name, get name. Set average, get average. So when you observe, so these methods are all non-static methods. So if it is a non-static method, what we need to do? We have to create the class object. So simple, the class name is student and a variable name can be anything and student object got created. So after creating the student object, I can access set method called as set ID. So I can supply 101. So this is what binding the data. And in the same method, I can get the value, get ID. So get ID will return always integer. So that I can print the value. So system.out.println ID called as ID. Okay. So meaning is, we are creating the object. So within this object we have three properties. Thus three properties are private properties. So directly we cannot access. That's the way we are using the some related functionalities. Related functionalities means set method and get method. By using the set method, we are binding the data to the student property. So when you observe set method, so this method got executed. And SID contains 101 value here. This 101 is assigned to the private variable. So that's the way this dot SID is equal to SID. So SID comes to. So this is local variable and this is global variable. So the variables which are declared within the class are called as global variable. The variables which are declared as part of the blocks or methods are local variable. So I'll try to store the local variable data into the global variable, so that the data is assigned to this property. So this is exactly called as binding the data. This is exactly called as binding the data. The binding the data is called as nothing but encapsulation. The binding the data is nothing but encapsulation. So now we can say the encapsulation is nothing but binding the data. Encapsulation is nothing but binding the data to the related functionalities. To the related functionalities. What is the meaning of related functionalities? With the help of set method. With the help of set method, we are assigning this 101 to the private variable. We are assigning this 101 to the private variable. So that is the reason why this is best example for encapsulation. This is best example for encapsulation. So simple. I will try to run this program. Go to our desktop, ADS, and within the ADS, I think the Java guide. Okay, right. Simple. I'll open the command prompt here. From the command prompt. So Java C space. I will delete the old .class file. No .class files are available. So Java C space test.java. Java C space test.java. So what is the meaning? Cannot find simple. The simple name is S. The problem with the code here. The problem with the code. So we use STD, but we'll try to access it with the S. That is the mistake. That is the mistake. The simple CLS Java C space test.java. So again s.getID. So instead of S we have to use ST. Okay, right. So CLS Java C test.java successfully compiled and Java space test. So when I execute this, the 101 value is the output. What is the 101 value? The 101 value is assigned to this private variable. This is exactly called as binding the data. And the same 101 we are using, we are retrieving with the help of getter. With the help of getter method. So that is the reason why directly it is return the value called as 101. So this is exactly called as encapsulation. So make a note. Heading encapsulation. Encapsulation. Encapsulation is the process of binding the data to the related functionalities. Encapsulation is the process of binding the data to the related functionalities. Encapsulation is the process of binding the data to the related functionalities. Binding the data to the related functionalities. And unbind the data to the unbind and unbind the data to the unrelated functionalities. Unbind the data to the unrelated functionalities. Unrelated functionalities. So take this program. So right. Do you know the data types? What are the data types we have? Inter, float, character, double, boolean, right. So observe here, data types. So already we have discussed it, but one more time. So data type actually there are two types. Okay, what are the two types? What are the two types? Primitive and primitive and non-primitive. So what are primitive and what are non-primitive? Okay, the primitive data types are byte, short, int, long, float, double, character, boolean. Okay, so these are primitive data types. Then what are non-primitive types? What are non-primitive types? Classes, interfaces, and exceptions. And what? Exceptions. Okay. So classes, interfaces, and exceptions are non-primitive objects, non-primitive data types. So ఇప్పుడు చెప్పండి, data types are categorized into two types, primitive and. So to the primitive data types, we use values. To the primitive data types, we use values. To the non-primitive data types, either classes or exception and interfaces, we use objects. So what is the difference between primitive and non-primitive? So primitives are like byte, long, int. So you can see all these data types in every programming. Okay, and coming to the non-primitive, the non-primitive data types are classes, interfaces, and exception. So generally for data types we use values, and the non-primitive types for we use object. Suppose simple example. So the last example is student. Student is a class or data type? Student is a class or data type? It is a class. So primitive or non-primitive? Non-primitive. So if it is a non-primitive, we use what? Object. If it is a primitive, so int aside is a primitive or non-primitive? So if it is a primitive, we use values. Values here. So got the clarity? To the primitive data types we use values. To the non-primitive type we use object. Simple. So in the first class,
Already I told you that Java is collection of ready-made code. Java is a collection of ready-made code. How many applications we can develop? How many applications we can develop? 3 applications: standalone, enterprise and mobile platform application. The standalone application, for application development we use API or not? As we discussed or not? Okay, the API, so API stands for application programming interface. This contains couple of packages or not? So go to java.lang package. Go to java.lang package, which is the default package for Java, and observe the classes. Observe the classes. What is the class name? What is the class name? The class name is class or primitive type? Class or primitive type? So this is primitive. The class name always start with the class name always start with capital letter. Sir, no? So observe it. Observe it. Capital letter or small letter? Capital letter means it is a class or not? Public final class. Byte. So byte is a class or data type? Byte is a class or data type? Class. So primitive or non-primitive? Primitive or non-primitive? If it is a non-primitive, values or object? Values or object? Object. So not only byte, not only byte. There is one more class called as short. There is a one more class called as short. So short is a class. If it is a class, it is a non-primitive. If it is a non-primitive, object. So next. What is the class name? The class name is like integer. What is the class name? Integer. So you can observe the data type is int and the class name is integer. What is the difference between int and integer? What is the difference between int and integer? Int is a primitive data type. Integer is a non-primitive data type. So long is also a class. So non-primitive, and double and float. So like this. And we have the boolean also, character and boolean. So now tell me. So by this we can get the idea. For each and every primitive data type there is a separate class. Yes or no? For each and every primitive data type there is a separate class. For byte we have a byte class. For short we have a short class. For int we have a integer class. For long we have a long class. Like that, for each and every data type there is a separate class. For each and every data type there is a separate class. So these classes are called as wrapper classes. These classes are called as wrapper classes. So what is the use of these wrapper classes? The wrapper classes are used to convert the primitive data into object. Okay, so what is the use of the wrapper classes? The wrapper classes used to the primitive values, wrap the primitive values into object. So that is the main funda. So that is the reason why the wrapper classes are invented. So what are the wrapper classes? For each and every primitive data type, there is a separate class. For int we have integer. For long we have a long. For double we have a double. Actually speaks, for primitive data type we use values. For non-primitive types we use the object. To convert the values into object we use wrapper classes. It wraps the values into object. Why we need to convert the values into object? Because Java is what? Java is a object oriented programming language. object oriented programming language. That is the reason why we have to represent it within the form of object. Somehow still we are using the primitive data types and values. That is the reason why if there is a situation we need to convert the values into object, then we go for the wrapper classes. Take the heading wrapper classes. Wrapper classes. Wrapper classes are wrapper classes are wrapper classes are wrapping. Wrapper classes are wrap the primitive data into. Wrapper classes are wrap the primitive data into object. Primitive data into object. Wrap the wrapper classes are wrap the primitive data into object. Primitive data into object. Next line. These classes are available in the default package. These classes are available in the default package. These classes are available in the default package called as java.lang package. These classes are available in default package called as java.lang package. Java.lang package. Some of the data types are listed below. Some of the data types are listed below along with corresponding wrapper classes. Along with corresponding wrapper classes. Corresponding wrapper classes. Along with the corresponding wrapper classes. So take the list from the left side. Byte and byte class, short and short class. Okay, like this you have to continue. For the byte we have to use byte class. Okay, for short we have to write short. For double we have to write double. For int we have to write integer. Okay, remaining all are same. For short we have to write a short. We have for int we have to write integer. Okay, for long we have to write long. The class name always start with capital letter. Okay, right. So see the doubt. Int I is equal to 101 and integer or j equals to new integer of I. So what is the difference? What is the difference? So this is a primitive data type. This is a primitive data type. Primitive data type. So which represent value or object? Which represent value. So what is the second one? What is the second one? It is a non-primitive. It is a non-primitive, which represent object. Which represent object. So now tell me, what is the difference between this 101 and this 101? So both are represent same 101 value or not? But the first one is in the form of value. The second one is nothing but in the form of object. So only blindly you have to follow. The primitive means values, non-primitive means object. What are non-primitives? Classes, interfaces and exception. That's it. You have to write all these things in the wrapper classes. Okay. Next point. Do you know the arrays or not? What are arrays? Arrays are collection of similar data elements. Arrays are nothing but similar data elements. Simple. We'll discuss. Okay. We'll get the clarity about primitive and non-primitive. Simple. Where we use non-primitive exactly. Okay. Right. Simple. So as of now, we continue with arrays are nothing but collection of similar data element. Okay. So arrays can be created with the help of data types. Arrays can be created with the help of data types. So what are the data types we have? Two types again, primitive array as well as primitive array and so in the primitive array what we can store? Values or object. In the non-primitive array, what are the things we can store? Sure. In the primitive we store values. In the non-primitive array we store. Excellent. So continue with the creation. So int I, the dimension is called as array. So this is single dimension array and new operator. Again the size, suppose let us assume I'll continue with 3. So this is exactly called as array creation. Array creation. So now we used int array. We use int. So int is a primitive data type. So that I can say it is a integer array. So we can store only integer values or object. If it is a primitive type, we use values. So we can store values. What type of values we can store? Integer values. What type of values? Integer values. So only integer values we can store. How many values we can store? 4 or 5 or 3? 3. Why? Because the size of the array is only 3. The index always start from 0. So I have 0, 101. Let us take an example. I have 1 equals to 102. Let us take a scenario 102, and finally I have 1, so I have 2 equals to 103. So this is how we'll create the array, and we can store the values into the array. Suppose if it is a character array, we use characters. If it is a float array, we use float. If it is a double array, we use double values. Is it clear? So only one thing, arrays can be created in two ways again, primitive array and non-primitive array. Within the primitive array, we store the primitive values. Within the non-primitive array, we store the object. We store the object. Suppose for example, now tell me, primitive array or non-primitive array? Non-primitive array. Non-primitive array means values or object. Values or object. Integer object we have to store. Integer object we store. డైరెక్ట్గా 101 స్టోర్ చేయొచ్చా? చేయలేము. We have to create the integer object we have to store. Okay, so keep it aside. So we have an idea about which data type of array and what are the values or object we can store in it. Okay, keep it aside. Now come backward. So there is a concept called as inheritance. So already I think all of you know the inheritance concept or not. So what is inheritance? Inheritance is the concept of storing the multiple and creating the multiple object and access from one class object to another class. So మనం ఏం చేసాము, class 3, class 2 and class 1. So from the class 3 we can access class 2 and from class 2 we can access class 1. So what is the thing? Inheritance అంటే ఏంటి? So from the subclass we can access superclass methods. Okay, from the subclass we can access superclass method. Simple. ఎన్ని క్లాసెస్ ఉన్నాయి మనకి? class 3, class 2 and class 1. ప్రతి క్లాస్లో ఒక 2 మెథడ్స్ ఉన్నాయి అనుకుందాం. ఓకే, ఈచ్ అండ్ ఎవ్రీ క్లాస్లో 2 మెథడ్స్ అనుకున్నాం. m1 m2 ఫ్రమ్ క్లాస్ 1, m3 m4 ఫ్రమ్ క్లాస్ 2, m5 అండ్ m6 ఫ్రమ్ క్లాస్ 3. m1 m2 ఫ్రమ్ class 1, m3 m4 from class 2, m5 and m6 from class 3. సో క్లాస్ 3కి ఆబ్జెక్ట్ క్రియేట్ చేస్తే ఏమేమి మెథడ్స్ యాక్సెస్ చేసుకోవచ్చు మనము? సో క్లాస్ 3కి ఆబ్జెక్ట్ క్రియేట్ చేస్తే వాట్ ఆర్ ద మెథడ్స్ వీ కెన్ యాక్సెస్? సో ఇఫ్ యూ క్రియేట్ ది ఆబ్జెక్ట్ ఆఫ్ ది క్లాస్ 3 యూ కెన్ యాక్సెస్ m5 and m6. If you create an object to the class 2, m4 and m3 we can access. If you create the class 1 object we can access m1 and m2. Okay, but if you apply the inheritance concept, with the help of single object, you can access m1 to m6 methods. So I think already the completed, right? So the inheritance ante enti? Simple. ఇన్హెరిటెన్స్ అంటే ఎలా రాస్తాం మనము? క్లాస్ 3, సో CT ఈజ్ ఈక్వల్ టు న్యూ క్లాస్ 3. సో ఈ ఆబ్జెక్ట్ క్రియేట్ చేస్తే, ఈ ఆబ్జెక్ట్ అనేది మనం క్రియేట్ చేస్తే యూ కెన్ యాక్సెస్ CT డాట్ m1. సో CT డాట్ m1. సో ఫ్రమ్ m1 టు సో వీ కెన్ యాక్సెస్ m6. So all the methods you can access or not. In the same way, instead of this, you can also do like this. Say sir, no? These are completed in the last class itself. So this time what I am doing here, the object is called as class 3. But I am storing it in class 2. So class 3 is a subclass and class 2 is a superclass. We can store the subclass object into superclass, but we cannot store the superclass into subclass. అదైతే ఐడియా ఉంది కదా మీకు? షూరా? సో we can store subclass into superclass, but we cannot store the superclass into subclass. So got the clarity? Okay, simple. సో ఇప్పుడు మనకి ఎన్ని క్లాసెస్ ఉన్నాయి? class 3, class 2, class 1. class 3 is a subclass to class 2. class 2 is a subclass to class 1. class 1 is a subclass to, there is a superclass called as, అందరికంటే ఎక్కువ సూపర్ క్లాస్ ఏది ఉంది? the superclass is called as object class. the superclass is called as, అర్థమైందా? గుర్తుందా? మర్చిపోయినారా? సో దిస్ ఈస్ ది ప్రాబ్లమ్ ఆఫ్ జావా. ఓకే, చెప్పినప్పుడు అంతా బాగానే ఉంటుంది కానీ బట్ when you don't practice it, so you will not remember anything. Okay, so now tell me, what is the submost class? The submost class is class 3. The class 3 extends class 2, class 2 extends class 1, class 1 extends object. Okay, so class 3 నుంచి class 2కి స్టోర్ చేయొచ్చు, class 2ని class 1లో స్టోర్ చేయొచ్చు, class 1ని ఆబ్జెక్ట్లో స్టోర్ చేయొచ్చు. బట్ ఆబ్జెక్ట్ని class 1లో స్టోర్ చేయొచ్చా? చేయరాదు. క్లాస్ 1ని క్లాస్ 2లో స్టోర్ చేయొచ్చా? చేయలేం. క్లాస్ 2ని క్లాస్ 3లో స్టోర్ చేయొచ్చా? చేయలేం. ద హైరార్కీ షుడ్ బి ఫ్రమ్ బాటమ్ టు టాప్ బట్ నాట్ టాప్ టు బాటమ్. గాట్ ది క్లారిటీ? సో క్లాస్ 3 ఎక్స్టెండ్ క్లాస్ 2, క్లాస్ 2 ఎక్స్టెండ్ class 1 and class 1 extend object. So what is the super class to all the Java classes? What is the super class to all the Java classes? Object or not? Yes or no? గుర్తుందా లేదంటే ఇన్హెరిటెన్స్ మళ్ళీ ఒకసారి రిఫ్రెష్ చేయాలా? చెప్పండి క్లారిటీగా, వెరీ వెరీ ఇంపార్టెంట్. సో వితౌట్ ఇన్హెరిటెన్స్ దెర్ ఈస్ నో టాపిక్స్ ఇన్ జావా. ఓకేనా? ఇన్హెరిటెన్స్ అంతా ఓకేనా? గ్రాఫ్ గుర్తుందా? గ్రాఫ్ ఏం చేసాం అప్పుడు? గుర్తులేదా? సింపుల్. రైట్. సో ఈ గ్రాఫ్ గుర్తుందా? సో ఎన్ని క్లాసెస్ ఉన్నాయి మనకి? 3, 2, 1 అండ్ ఆబ్జెక్ట్. ఓకే, సో దేనికి ఆబ్జెక్ట్ క్రియేట్ చేసాం మనము? క్లాస్ 3కి ఆబ్జెక్ట్ క్రియేట్ చేసాం. దేనికి క్రియేట్ చేసాము? క్లాస్ 3. సో క్లాస్ 3 యూజ్ చేసి మనం ఏ మెథడ్ కాల్ చేస్తున్నాము? మెథడ్ 1, మెథడ్ 2, మెథడ్ 3, మెథడ్ 4, మెథడ్ 5 అండ్ మెథడ్ 6. సో the class 3 is a subclass and class 2 is a superclass. To the class 2, class 1 is the superclass, and to all these classes object is the superclass. So this is called as inheritance. This is called as inheritance. Inheritance is nothing but creating multiple chain of object. Creating multiple chain of object with the help of subclass object. With the help of subclass object, we can call subclass method as well as its superclass methods. ఓకే, అర్థమైందా మీకు ఇన్హెరిటెన్స్ అంటే? సో ఇన్హెరిటెన్స్ ఈస్ నథింగ్ బట్ క్రియేటింగ్ మల్టిపుల్ చైన్ ఆఫ్ ఆబ్జెక్ట్ విత్ ద హెల్ప్ ఆఫ్ సబ్క్లాస్. విత్ ద హెల్ప్ ఆఫ్ సబ్క్లాస్ వీ కెన్ యాక్సెస్ సబ్క్లాస్ మెథడ్ యాజ్ వెల్ యాజ్ సూపర్ క్లాస్ మెథడ్. సో దీని మీనింగ్ ఏంటి అంటే ఐ కెన్ స్టోర్ the subclass into superclass. I can store the subclass into superclass. I can store the subclass into superclass, but we cannot store the superclass into subclass. So what is the superclass to all the Java classes? Object. So remember that. What is the superclass to all the Java classes? Object. Simple. So this is what inheritance. Next, suppose I'll create object array. So new object. Primitive or non-primitive? Primitive or non-primitive? Non-primitive array. So within this non-primitive array, we store values or object? Sure. We store values or object? Obviously we have to store object, but object is the superclass to all the Java classes. whatever the class is available, that class directly is a subclass to, directly or indirectly is a subclass to object class. So object తర్వాత ఇంకేమైనా క్లాస్ ఉందా? లేదు. సో ఆబ్జెక్ట్ is the root class for the all the Java hierarchy. సో నేనేం చేసా ఇక్కడ, we created the super class array. We created the super class array. So we can store any subclass object. We can store any subclass object. I can store or not? Say sir, no. As per the inheritance, we can store any object or not. So simple, simple. Okay. So O of 0, O of 0. First object em store chestam manamu, new integer, because we have to store the integer or not? Say sir, no. Why? Because non-primitive. Integer em store chestamu, 101. Next, O of 1 equals to new, or directly you can store something, std, the student 101, and O of 2 equals to new double, new double. The double is called as average 98.6. So now tell me, what is the array here? Object array. Object array is a primitive or non-primitive? Non-primitive means we store values or object? Object. How many values, how many objects we can store? 3 objects. First object is, second object is string, third object is double or not? So same values or different values? గట్టిగా చెప్పండి, సేమ్ వాల్యూస్ ఆర్ డిఫరెంట్ వాల్యూస్? సో అరే ఈస్ నథింగ్ బట్ సిమిలర్ డేటా ఎలిమెంట్ ఆర్ డిఫరెంట్ ఎలిమెంట్? సిమిలర్ డేటా. యాక్చువల్లీ అరేస్ ఆర్ కలెక్షన్ ఆఫ్ సిమిలర్ డేటా ఎలిమెంట్, బట్ హియర్ different elements or not? So that is the reason why, so Java arrays are object. Java arrays are object. We can store any object with the help of superclass called as object. So ఇప్పుడు చూడండి, so without wrapper class called as integer, and without wrapper class called as double, we cannot store the values. 101 డైరెక్ట్గా స్టోర్ చేయొచ్చా? స్టోర్ చేయలేము. అండ్ 98.6 యావరేజ్ డైరెక్ట్గా స్టోర్ చేయొచ్చా? స్టోర్ చేయలేము. సో దిస్ ఈజ్ వేర్ వీఆర్ కన్వర్టింగ్ ద ప్రిమిటివ్ డేటా ఇంటూ ఆబ్జెక్ట్. వీఆర్ కన్వర్టింగ్ ద ప్రిమిటివ్ డేటా ఇంటూ ఆబ్జెక్ట్. సో వీ విల్ సీ ఇన్ ది ప్రోగ్రామింగ్. Simple. I am using the same test class here. Within the main method, I'll create the object array. So simple, I am creating the object array here. So with the help of 3, size is 3. Suppose let us assume a of 0 equals to 101. Can I store like this or not? Why? Because 101 is a value. We cannot store the value into the non-primitive array. Yes or no? So we will check. The CLS. I'll delete the old one. Simple desktop, ADS, and Java KIET. There is no .class file, not an issue. Okay. Simple Java C space test.java. Successfully compiled or not? Okay, I think. Okay. Next, a of 1 equals to std101, and next, a of 2 equals to some 98.6. Okay, so there is a for loop to retrieve all the elements from the array from 0 to like less than length keyword I plus plus, and close the per loop, and within this system dot out dot println. So system dot out dot println. So a of I. So go to the command prompt, cls java ctest dot java and java space test and java space test. So working or not? So now tell me, values or object? Values or object? Simple. There is a method called as get class. Now tell me. So what is the first one? Java dot lang dot integer. Integer is object or primitive type or non-primitive type? So java dot lang dot string. Object primitive or non-primitive? Java dot lang dot double, primitive or non-primitive? So these are all object. These are all object. బట్ కోడింగ్లో ఏంటి రాసాము? కోడింగ్లో ఏం రాసాము? డైరెక్ట్గా వాల్యూస్ రాసాం. ఏం రాసాం? వాల్యూస్ 101 STD 101 average is called as 98.6. రైట్. సో ఇక్కడ అబ్జర్వ్ చేయండి. సో వితౌట్ క్లాసెస్ అండ్ విత్ క్లాసెస్, same output or not? Okay, same output or not? So what is the change? What is the change? Even when you supply the class or when you do not supply any class, directly it will treated as non-primitive data type. So that is the reason why wrapper classes are invented. So now tell me, wrapper classes are used to convert the primitive data into object. So this is the where we use the wrapper classes. With this we got the idea about wrapper classes or not? సో ఆటో బాక్సింగ్ అనే క్వశ్చన్ వచ్చినా, wrapper classes అనే క్వశ్చన్ వచ్చినా, ఈ ఒక్క ప్రోగ్రామ్ మీరు రాస్తే సరిపోతుంది. రాస్తారు కదా? ఓకే కదా? సో నెక్స్ట్ టాపిక్. There is a package called as java.util package. Okay. జావాలో అరేస్ అంటే ఏం చెప్పుకున్నాం మనము? అరేస్ ఆర్ ఆబ్జెక్ట్. సో by using this object we can store multiple data elements, not single element. We can also store multiple data elements. Suppose I would like to store multi data elements for every type. So the arrays are not sufficient to store. Why? Because ఇప్పుడు ఎన్ని స్టోర్ చేసాం మనము? 3 స్టోర్ చేసాం. సపోజ్ స్టూడెంట్ ఈమెయిల్ ఐడి నేను స్టోర్ చేయాలనుకుంటున్నా. ఏం చేయాలనుకుంటున్నా? ఈమెయిల్ ఐడి స్టోర్ చేయాలనుకుంటున్నా. అప్పుడు సైజ్ ఎంత చేంజ్ చేయాలి మనము? 4కి చేంజ్ చేయాలి. నెక్స్ట్ టైం స్టూడెంట్ ఈమెయిల్ ఐడి కూడా మొబైల్ నెంబర్ కూడా యాడ్ చేయాలనుకుంటున్నా. సో అప్పుడు మళ్ళీ ఏం చేయాలి? అగైన్ we have to increase the size, and some after time I would like to store some address, and I would like to store some academic information. I would like to store some qualification. So each and every time when you want to add the element to the array, so there is a problem for size. Okay, every time we need to increase the size for modifying the object. So that's where Java came up with concept called as collections. What are collections? The collections are object. The collections are also object which stores multiple object into single object. Okay, so maximum the collections are categorized into 3 types. The first one is list, the second one is set, and the third one is map. How many collections? List, set, map. And map. These are the collections. These are what? Collection. And these are available inside the package called as java.util package. Which package? Java.util package. Okay, so when you observe java.util package, when the util package, list is a interface, and map is also interface, and there is one more interface. The interface name is also called as set. Set is also interface. Okay, all are from the same package. Okay, the list, set and map. List, set and map. These are all what? Interfaces. These are all what? Interfaces. Interfaces available in java.util package. Available in java.util package. Okay. What interface contains? Interface contains only three things. What are they? Static and final variable. Static and final variable, and abstract method and static methods. Abstract method and static methods. Right. So observe the name called as collections. The name called as collection. These are three types: list, set, map. These are all what? Interfaces available in java.util package. Available in java.util package. To the interfaces we cannot create the object. To the interfaces we can't create the object. The object can be created for only the object. Object can be created only the classes. Okay. For each and every interface, there is a separate classes. There are separate classes. The first class is array list. The first class is array list. There are so many classes, but most of the time we use array list. The second class, set. To this set there is a class called as set. And to the map, the class name is hash map. Hash map. Okay, right. Okay. Collections are three types: list, set, and map. These are interfaces are available in java.util package. We cannot create the object to the interfaces. We'll create the object to the classes. To the list we use array list. To the set we use set. To the map we use hash map. Okay, we'll discuss what is exactly. And we'll discuss about array list first. The class name is called as array list. The class name is called as array list, which is available in the same package called as java.util package. Same package called as java.util package. So it is not from default package. What is the default package? The default package is java.lang package. But here what is the package name? Java.util package, which is not a default. So it is some package which is not a default. And the class name is array list. The class name is array list. Simple. I'll comment Okay, I'll comment this code. I'll comment this code because I don't want to use this. Okay. Next, I'll use the class name called as array list. Array list is equal to new array list. Array list is equal to new array list. The object is created. Array list from which package? Array list from which package? Java.util package. We have to import that package. We have to import that package. Why? Because we are using this class. Import statement java.util. The class name is called as array list. The class name is called as array list. Okay, so we are importing the class. Why? Because we are using the class within our class. The object got created. The next one is what? Next one is what? We can access some methods. We can access some method. We can access some method. What is the method name? Add method. What is the method name? Add method. By using the add method, we can add the element into the array list. We can add the element into the array list. So list.101, list.add of student 101, list.add of student 101, and list.add of some average. The same thing we are using with array list. Yes or no? So in the last time we have created the array. The last time we have created the array with the size. But this time we are not using any size or not. This time we are not using any size. Directly you can store any number of element as you want. Suppose I can add array.list.add method. So something, a mail ID I can also add @gmail.com. Suppose next time I would like to add the mobile number, so that directly I can add the mobile number like this. Yes or no? So irrespective of the size, you can add any number of object into the single collection object. So you can observe 101 is an integer and 101 is an integer. So 101 is integer and this one is a string and this one is a double and this one is some string and etc. Okay, so we are storing multiple data elements, not single elements. Okay, so the collections are used to store multiple object. These are all object or values? Value or object? ఎట్లా చెప్తున్నారు వాల్యూ అని? ఆబ్జెక్ట్ అని చెప్తున్నారా వాల్యూ అని చెప్తున్నారా? ఆబ్జెక్ట్. ఎందుకు అంటే సో మనం లాస్ట్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్లోనే చూసాం 101 స్టోర్ చేసిన అది రిటర్న్ టైప్ ఏమి ఇచ్చింది మనకి? java.lang.integer అండ్ java.lang.double. సో ఇప్పుడు మీరు చెప్పండి 101 and 98.6 ఆర్ వాల్యూస్ ఆర్ ఆబ్జెక్ట్? Object only. This is called as auto boxing. This is called as auto boxing. So directly it is converting into primitive data type. So simple ga cheppali ante, so array list is a collection. Array list is a collection object where we can store multiple object into single object. ఈ అన్ని ఆబ్జెక్ట్స్ కూడా ఎక్కడ స్టోర్ చేసాం మనము? లిస్ట్ అనే సింగిల్ ఆబ్జెక్ట్లో స్టోర్ చేసాము. సో ఇక్కడ మీరు అబ్జర్వ్ చేయాల్సింది ఏంటి అంటే సో ఎన్ని టైప్స్ ఉన్నాయి మనకి కలెక్షన్స్ అని? 3 types. వాట్ ఆర్ దే? లిస్ట్, సెట్, మ్యాప్. దీస్ ఆర్ ఆల్ వాట్? ఇంటర్ఫేసెస్. కెన్ వీ క్రియేట్ ది ఆబ్జెక్ట్ టు ది ఇంటర్ఫేసెస్? నో. సో వీ కెన్ క్రియేట్ ది ఆబ్జెక్ట్ టు ది classes. What is array list? Array list is a class or interface? Class, which is the depends on the interface called as list. So without list there is no array list. Without set there is no as set. Without map, there is no hash map. So now tell me, the class is important or interface is important? Class is important or interface is important? Interface is important. Why? Because without interface, it is not possible to use this class. Simple. Simple. Observe the code here. Observe the code here. I am creating the object called as array list object. I am storing this object into list. What is this array list and what is this list? Array list is a class. List is a interface. Exactly. I am storing the object into interface. We are storing the object into interface. So ఇప్పుడు ఏం చెప్పాము మనము? We cannot create the object to the interface, but we can store the object into the, we cannot create the object to the interface, but we can store the object into the interface. Got the clarity? Okay, simple. There is no array list. Let us try to create the object to the list only. So instead of array list, I'll import only list. Okay, go to the command prompt, cls javac test.java. So what is the message? The message is list is abstract, cannot be instantiated. Cannot be instantiated. The meaning is list is an interface. To the interface we cannot create the object. We cannot create the object, but we can create the object to the array list. We can create the object to the array list and we can store that object into the interface. We can store the object into the interface. So now very important, very important. Okay, the complete JDBC depends on this topic only. Okay, the array list object we have created. To the class we can create the object obviously, but that object can we assign to the list interface? The object can we assign to the list interface or not? We have to verify it. Okay, save the program and go to the command prompt and cls javac test.java. So successfully compiled or not? There is no error message, just some note. Okay, we have to come to this note in the future classes. Okay, so just observe. So when I compile the class, it is successfully compiled or not? But I will try to execute. So before I execute, I need to write one thing. So what is the method name? Get method. We have to supply the index. Okay, and what is the message name? What is the method name? Size. The size is used to find out the length of the object. So simple for loop. Index always start from 0. I less than list dot size I plus plus. Open the loop and close the loop. System dot out dot println, some list of get of I. So within the list we are using the get method, and to the get method we are using the indexes. The indexes from 0 to size. So cls javac test.java and java space test. So 101, student 101, average and mail ID and mobile number. So this is how we can store the values into the array list and we can retrieve the values from the array list. This is not a matter. This is not a matter. So to overcome the arrays disadvantages, the array list and set map collections are invented. The collections are invented. So that is not matter. The matter is only this line. The matter is only this line. So what is this? Array list object. ఎక్కడ స్టోర్ చేసాము? List interface. So can we create the object to the list interface? Is it possible? We cannot possible. So we cannot create the object to the interfaces, but interface can hold object or not. Interface can hold the object. Em object? Em object? The list will store array list object. The set will store as set object. Map will store hash map object. The final conclusion is interface variable. Interface variable can hold implementation class object. Can hold implementation class object. Implementation class object. So array list. Array list. Simple. Observe here. Public class array list which implements the interface called as list. Which implement the interface called as list. So this is where we are using array list is a implementation class to list. Array list is a implementation class to list. In the same way, there is another class. There is another class. Another class is nothing but, what is the class name here? Abstract list. Another class is what? Abstract list. So abstract list also implement the interface called as list. Implement the concept called as list. So abstract class is also called as implementation class to list interface. Implementation class to లిస్ట్ ఇంటర్ఫేస్. అంటే ఇక్కడ ఏం చెప్పొచ్చు, ఒక సింగిల్ ఇంటర్ఫేస్కి ఎన్నైనా ఇంప్లిమెంటేషన్ క్లాస్ ఆబ్జెక్ట్స్ ఉండొచ్చు. సో ఇక్కడ లిస్ట్ ఇంటర్ఫేస్కి ఎన్ని ఆబ్జెక్ట్స్ ఉన్నాయి? 2. సో వన్ ఈస్ అరే లిస్ట్ అండ్ అనదర్ వన్ ఈస్ అబ్స్ట్రాక్ట్ లిస్ట్. అబ్స్ట్రాక్ట్ లిస్ట్. సో నెక్స్ట్ there is a class called as vector. There is a class called as vector. Vector class also implement the list interface. And there is a class called as stack. There is a class called as stack. So stack also implements the vector. Vector implement the list directly or indirectly. It is also a implementation class. అంటే ఇక్కడ మీరు ఏం చెప్పొచ్చు, టు ది సింగిల్ ఇంటర్ఫేస్ we have the multiple implementation classes. Multiple implementation classes. So simple గా చెప్పాలి అంటే so what are the classes are available? The first one is abstract list. Second one is array list, and third one is vector. And the fourth one is stack. These are all implementation classes. 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 Implementation classes to list interface. These are all implementation class to list interface. And these are available in the same package called as java.util package. Okay, right. Okay, right, no need to take the notes, I will give the notes. Okay, just observe. ఇప్పుడు చెప్పండి, ఈ లిస్ట్ ఇంటర్ఫేస్లో ఎన్ని ఆబ్జెక్ట్ స్టోర్ చేయొచ్చు? అబ్స్ట్రాక్ట్ లిస్ట్, అరే లిస్ట్, వెక్టార్, స్టాక్. ఇప్పుడు చెప్పండి. ఓకే, కోడ్లోకి వచ్చిన తర్వాత ఇది ఏ ఆబ్జెక్టు? లిస్ట్ ఆబ్జెక్ట్. ఏ ఆబ్జెక్టు? లిస్ట్ ఆబ్జెక్ట్. యాక్చువల్గా లిస్ట్ ఆబ్జెక్టా అరే లిస్ట్ ఆబ్జెక్టా? చెప్పండి. అరే లిస్ట్ ఆబ్జెక్టే ఎక్కడ యూజ్ చేసాం మనము? లిస్ట్లో యూజ్ చేసాం. సో ఇప్పుడు నేను ఏమంటాను? లిస్ట్ ఆబ్జెక్ట్ అంట. ఏమంటాను? లిస్ట్ ఆబ్జెక్ట్ అంట. రియల్గా లిస్ట్ ఆబ్జెక్ట్ ఉంటుందా? ఉండదు. ఐదర్ అబ్స్ట్రాక్ట్ లిస్ట్ ఆర్ అరే లిస్ట్ ఆర్ వెక్టర్ ఆర్ స్టాక్, ఏదైనా ఒకటి ఉంటుంది. ఎందుకు అంటే, సో దిస్ అబ్స్ట్రాక్ట్ లిస్ట్, అరే లిస్ట్, వెక్టర్ అండ్ స్టాక్ ఆర్ ఇంప్లిమెంటేషన్ క్లాసెస్ టు లిస్ట్ ఇంటర్ఫేస్. ఇప్పుడు నేను ఏం చెప్తాను అంటే, ఐ నీడ్ ఏ లిస్ట్ ఆబ్జెక్ట్ అంట. ఐ వాంట్ టు గెట్ ఏ లిస్ట్ ఆబ్జెక్ట్ అంట. రియల్గా లిస్ట్ ఆబ్జెక్ట్ వస్తుందా? రియల్లీ కెన్ వి గెట్ లిస్ట్ ఆబ్జెక్ట్? నో. విచ్ ఆబ్జెక్ట్ వీ కెన్ గెట్? abstract or array list or vector or stack. Okay, in JDBC also we have the interfaces. Connection is the interface, driver is the interface, and statement is the interface, and prepared statement interface, result set is an interface. But ఈ ఇంటర్ఫేస్కి ఆబ్జెక్ట్స్ క్రియేట్ చేయొచ్చా? ఇంటర్ఫేస్కి ఆబ్జెక్ట్స్ క్రియేట్ చేయొచ్చా? చేయలేము. సో అప్పుడు ఏం చేస్తాము? ఇంప్లిమెంటేషన్ క్లాసెస్ యూజ్ చేస్తాం. ఏం యూజ్ చేస్తాము? ఇంప్లిమెంటేషన్ క్లాసెస్ని యూజ్ చేస్తాం. ఓకే, విల్ డిస్కస్. ఓకే, సో జేడీబీసీ ఓన్లీ 4 lines of code, but you have to understand what is interface and what is implementation class. So now tell me, what are these list set map? List set map are interfaces. What are these? Implementation classes. Simple. Alright, so observe this class. The class name is sample. Okay, within this class we have the main method and system.out.println. Okay, when I want to execute this, simple, you have to use the class name sample.java and java space sample. Successfully executed or not? Suppose the same class I would like to write one method here. Public void m1 is the method. So within this method, system.out.println and something called as hello. I don't want to print hi message. I would like to print hello message. But hello message is available inside the method. Available inside the method called as m1. M1 is a static or non-static? Non-static. So non-static means what we have to do? We have to create the object. So s is equal to new sample object got created and s dot method called as m1, method called as m1. So simple, so java c test dot java, sorry, sample dot java and java space sample. So hello message we got it. Suppose I don't want this main method within this class. I don't want to write main method within this class. From a test class, I would like to execute that sample. Okay, simple. What we have to do? First, within the main method, we'll create the object sample and s dot m1. So now you have to execute test class. So test dot java and java space test and java space test. Same execute, same output. So what is my point is? I would like to place the sample inside the package. The package name is org.kiet.some CSC group. The package name is org.kiet.csc. Okay, so CSC branch, KIET college, and KIET is a organization. So package should be like this. Okay. So intaku mundu enti without package directly we got successfully compiled and executed. But this time when I try to compile this class, okay, so mandatory we have to compile with -d. Space followed by some dot. The dot indicates current path. Within the current path I would like to compile the class. So observe here, so before compilation, is there any folder called as org? So after compilation, so observe the folder created, the folder is called as org. Inside the org the folder is created called as KIET, and inside the KIET there is a folder again CSC. In the CSC the sample dot class is available. So now the sample is available inside the package or not? The packages are nothing but folders. So org, KIET, CSC. So within the CSC we have the sample class. I would like to use this class now. So ఎలా యూజ్ చేయాలి అప్పుడు మనము? చెప్పండి. The class is available, okay, within the package. So direct గా టెస్ట్ లో ఇట్లా రాయొచ్చా, sample అని రాయొచ్చా? So when I try to create, so java c space test dot java, ఏమొచ్చింది మనకు ఎర్రర్ మెసేజ్, cannot access sample. Why? Because it contains what? Correct subdirectory. Directory means folders. So directly we cannot use. So we have to import. What is the package name? org.kiet.csc.sample. So now css java c test.java, so successfully compiled, and java space test hello message. Okay, so here is the two things. The first one is we can also create our own packages. With the help of package keyword. So after package keyword you can write,